are watching the Blueprint Radio Show with DJ Ms Hennessey.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to a very, very exciting interview that I have been wanting to secure for quite some time. He's a very, very busy man, extremely elusive for good reason, but I'm really, really grateful that he's finally said yes to my many, many pleas. This is a dear old friend and an incredible artist, Daniel Merriweather. Welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. I'm well, brother. How are you going? You look well. You look very well.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel good. Yeah, I'm healthy, and yeah, things are good. I really don't have any reason to complain about anything right now, which is really good.
That's awesome. And that's a lot to say, you know, given that the music industry has really taken a battering over the last couple of years with obviously, you know, having to deal with lockdowns and no performing and this, that, and the third. We've had to be really creative to be creatives, I think, over the last couple of years.
Right.
So how has it served you? Obviously, you're based in the UK still. You know, like I said in the beginning, you are an elusive artist. You're not heavily on social media, which I think is it's great because social media can be a blessing and a curse. But when you create and you create some really, really intense magic, what has it been like for you over the last couple of years, obviously on the creation process and with lockdown and things like that?
Yeah, well, it has been, you know, it's been tough for everyone. You're right. I think from the biggest artists in the world to you know, independent artists and people making music in their bedrooms, it's been really difficult, as you said, to just find some momentum and forward motion. And I think that, you know, yeah, for me, you know, I took this lockdown pandemic period. I tried to sort of turn it into a blessing somehow. I had a child in that period of time, and I renovated the house that he lives in that time. So I was busy. I made myself busy.
Yeah.
And you know, although there was, you know, no performing, I think that in my career I was then able to kind of really figure out what it is that I like to do now.
Yeah.
You know, you know, I'm a little older than I was when we met.
Yes.
and yeah, you know, I'm drawn now more so, you know, to, you know, being in a more supportive role to other artists, younger artists.
Yeah.
And, you know, over the last 20 years of being in this industry, I've identified so many stars that I think had been overlooked.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm sort of making it my mission now. Not my mission, but I enjoy, you know, now kind of, you know, using the position that people have placed me in to then be able to sort of direct attention to people who may have been overlooked, you know, in the past. So I think for me, to sum up the answer to your question, you know, I really, I sort of see this whole period of time as a real, you know, I'm quite grateful for it, actually. I don't think I would have gotten the chance to slow down and recalibrate, and hopefully good things can come of that, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love everything that you've said about that, because I think, you know, when the world kind of slowed down a bit, it forced everybody to really look within and not to, you know, and again, as creatives, we're constantly our cup is always overflowing, right? Whether you're in a writing interview process, or whether you're recording artist, and obviously all of the amazing things that you've achieved. Congratulations on fatherhood. I certainly, that's the best creation that you could have made. So
it really is. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. And all of the amazing other, you know, sort of heart moment things that you've created, that obviously does make up a huge part of who we are. But I like what you've touched upon in saying that, you know, there are so many amazing artists that have been overlooked. For whatever reasons they've been overlooked, we don't know why, but I think it's so important to constantly go over, especially when you're in the position that somebody like yourself is in, with the world of, you know, experience that you've had, and you had to start somewhere as well. And I'm so grateful that I was able to be present when your sort of light was put on here, you know, many years back, here in Australia. And I've always held that very, very dear to myself, because I got to see your incredible artistry burst forth. And before you left us and went and joined the rest of the world, and they got to see how amazing you were, I really love the fact that that's what you're focusing on now. And we'll obviously touch on your music, but what has that process been like for you? Are you obviously just touching on artists within the UK, or are you looking outwardly in the world and reaching out? How are you doing that?
I'm doing it slowly and in a really considered way. Yeah, I think that, you know, there are really no borders. Well, there never has been borders. It's just that now we've got the technology to sort of realize that. And, you know, in a couple of years, we'll all be in Web3 metaverse land. So, you know, we'll literally be in the same room with people all day long. They're on the other side of the world. So no longer is there a spatial problem. It's only So I feel like, you know, for me, I've just really moved by things that I'm attracted to, and that sort of come my way. I've become really close with a couple of artists here in London. And you know, you see, the thing that I find, you know, really inspiring now is people's stories, and sort of why they make music, you know. Because I think that, you know, in a strange way, music, you know, let's say pop music, because it's popular music, all of the music we hear, unless it's sort of noise music or classical or whatever. But, you know, all of this music is it's using the same 12 minutes. The people who are performing at it, you know, a type of personality in person, probably about 1 of 12 types of people. And the language they're using is a variation of what we all know. So I'm more interested in why. You know, I'm more interested in why you're making music, and what it is you're trying to express. You know, so yeah, I've been spending a lot of time with my friend Goldlink a lot lately, and he has some artists around him. So, you know, we were just working on a song for an artist that he's associated with called Fire. And he's a South London guy, really, really talented, has an incredible story. And we're excited to see what his mixtape is going to bring. But I've just been, you know, quite surprised, not surprised, but happy that I just did a song with Digga D not long ago, and that's just that was on his album just went #1 a little while back. And, you know, so I'm over with Jake Gosling a lot, working on people that we're both drawn to. So there's a lot more names, but obviously it's only newsworthy when you've heard of them in the music. So So yeah, but I think that to answer your question, I'm always going to look at music as if it's this sort of international, multi-everything block. We're all trying to tell a story, and we all have one. We all have a story. So it's like, well, how do you get your pain and transmute that into something we want to listen to? And there's many ways to do it, and there's a few really, really entertaining ways. So that's what I'm interested in. So no border.
I love that. And you know what, that's kind of a similar why to why I do what I do. It's not about it's not about the fame, it's not about the fortune, because that stuff comes and goes. It's about the legacy that every artist leaves, and they I love to know their journey, like why they're here, what got them on this path. Obviously, you and I, when we first connected again many years ago, we've obviously spoken intermittently in between then and now, but not a lot. There haven't been a lot of interviews, but I've watched your growth and your evolution, and it's been such an incredible masterclass, Daniel, in your sound has changed as well in terms of just musically. The voice is still incredibly deep and soulful, but forgive me, because I'm always drawn to when I first met you and the music that you created back then. And I've always wanted to ask you this. I'm not sure if I have. Forgive me if I have, but we first met, obviously, your first album, some incredible gems. And it unfortunately, when it was released here in Australia, because it was so in such a precarious time in Australia, they didn't know what to do with a soulful gentleman like yourself. And that album, I think I still have a copy of it, and I've played it over the years. And Pot of Gold has gotten me through some incredibly challenging times in my own journey. And there's something about your vocals, the musical arrangement of that song, and the opener, of course, with the late great Chopper Reed, is always something that puts a smile on my face. But that Daniel that created that, to the Daniel that created City Rules, to the Daniel that has created Red and Rain and everything up to this point, how would you describe your journey? Because it's been such a journey for you. But to someone that is a diehard fan like myself, and someone that knows you, how would you describe that journey to me?
Well, first of all, thank you for knowing all that music, because there's not a lot of people that do, not a lot of journalists that do. Because some of it's kind of maybe only on YouTube. In fact, most of that music that you mentioned, I don't even have a master recording of. I'd have to go and find it somewhere on your hard drive. So it's kind of been lost in the chaos, right? And it somehow exists on the internet, and you've managed to find it.
It's actually, to be honest, it was even hard to find some of the tracks. Like, I dug deep, right? And Pot of Gold is on there, but it's just obviously someone's popped it up there. But it's a travesty that it's not available, because it is musical gold. So
thank you.
It's life-changing.
Yeah, I think Pot of Gold really kind of, I wrote Pot of Gold. One of my earliest sort of rap influences when I was coming of age was Nas. And the thing I loved about Nas was that when you listen to his music, you could tell he was in it but not of it. He was watching. And you could tell he was deeply spiritual, but he wasn't telling me. You could tell that he was connected to a culture that may have sort of, maybe been forgotten a little bit, through the lineage of his father and stuff like that. It's the music in his life, And I always I didn't maybe know it at the time, but I think when I was writing Pot of Gold and songs of that nature, I was maybe doing a similar thing in that, I was around a lot of chaos you know, you know, it's as if I was sort of the person that was meant to remember that stuff, you know, and write it down, you know. I mean, affiliations with people and things and groups of people would have to remain nameless, and it's kind of like, you know, and then having this kind of musical expression of that stuff, which includes a plausible deniability as well. So there's sort of a, you know, I think at the time that I was making that music, I was just around so much Aussie rap, and I think anyone who's in Melbourne and Sydney knows what I mean by that at that time.
Yeah.
2003, 2004, 2005, and I think that, you know, I think what I was maybe trying to do was sort of find the you know, sort of we're all doing the same thing for the same reason. You know, we're all getting up in the morning and we're making choices, and those choices are to do with a bunch of needs that we have and a bunch of desires, and then a bunch of fears.
Mm.
So if you get up in the morning and you want to go and sell drugs, you're tapping into those same three categories, and you're just making a decision to go and do it that way. And then there's obviously a moral burden that you carry, and you can cause harm doing that. But you know, that music back in the day was sort of what I was watching guys going in and out of jail, and watching men coming into their 20s totally confused about what they were now meant to do.
Yeah.
You know, caught between different, you know, unexamined identities, caught between unexamined classes.
Yeah.
You know, and then kind of thrust after a little bit of schooling into hardcore capitalism and consumerism, and said, right, go on, do it now.
Yeah.
And I saw, you know, like the How quote, you know, I saw some of the greatest minds, you know, just kind of vanish into either obscurity, insanity.
Yeah.
You know, I've had best friends OD on drugs at 25, 26, who are probably going to go on, if they were still alive, and do something really great. I've seen guys do things that they would regret now, and that they paid an ultimate price for. I've seen people get really harmed by other people, and so at the time I was wanting to sort of explore, maybe. I mean, I'm sort of, this is retrospective now, but I was maybe trying to explore why.
Yeah.
Because when I met these guys, I was seeing friendship.
Yeah.
I was seeing love. I was seeing camaraderie. I was seeing beauty. I was seeing intelligence, fortitude, all of the cornerstones of a stand-up citizen. You know, yet the narrative would write that differently. The narrative would write them down as an outcast or an outlaw.
Yeah.
You know, so I was interested in why that was. You know, and a lot of these men were sort of, you know, and I too was one of them, who was sort of, you know, all of a sudden kind of put into a racial category for the first time.
Yeah.
You know, and that's black men from Africa for the first time racialized.
Yeah.
And white men, and then Aboriginal men.
Yeah.
You know, and we're all sort of like, wait, hold on a second, what are you guys talking about? We're just mates.
Yeah.
You know, so Melbourne at that time was coming into its own in that way, and we didn't have words for identities.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I remember back then it was, you know, everyone would identify themselves with nationality.
Yeah.
You probably remember that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? So you go to school, and a Vietnamese kid in the class would ask a South African kid in the class what nasho he was. You know, it had nothing to do with the appearance of your skin color, or it had nothing really to do with race. It was to do with the country that you came from.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, because that's to do with the story.
Yeah.
That's to do with the why.
Yeah.
Not a what. That's a why.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of where I think some of that music came from. You know, I mean, the first time I ever kind of saw a trap house, it was a Polish guy was running it.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? It's like,
like,
and we didn't call it a trap house, but that's what it was.
Yeah.
That's what it was. It was all the same stuff. It was just called different things.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
So I'm just sort of, back then, I think it was my job, maybe, I didn't know it at the time, to kind of, you know, record this stuff.
Yeah.
So that maybe I would remember it, and maybe I could hopefully transform out of that as well.
Yeah. And you have. Look, two parts to that. Thank you for making that music. I think it was absolutely necessary, regardless of the time chamber that it's in, regardless of, you know, the diehard fans that actually know you and know where you came from, and has watched your journey and has watched the evolution, because you have to evolve, not only as a man, as an artist, as a creative. It's all about evolution. But that to me was the foundation for it, was that sort of springboard for you. But again, I'm such a purist that when you put that sort of first album out, and then there was sort of like a reshuffle of things, and then City Rules came, and sort of, you know, that real American vibe, obviously yourself and Mark Ronson then connected. And then when I realized Daniel was gone and he'd left Australia, and it's like, man, not another one, because all the great artists with the great voices were leaving Australia. We understood why, but when you look back and in hindsight, you know, you were young, and it was such an uncharted world for so many of us, right? We were all kind of learning and kind of growing together. But do you ever look back, Dan, and sit there and go, shit, I've lived a life. Shit, I've done this. And even though I might not have understood it at the time, what you've left behind, here's our conversation, and I've reminded you of some of the amazing music you've made. That's left an incredible mark on my musical heart. Do you ever sit there in your quiet moments and go, man, I've done some shit? Regardless of whether you're proud of it or not, you've got to be able to give yourself a pat on the back for what you've created thus far.
Look, you know, I'm not very reflective in that way. I used to carry a lot of guilt, shame, and remorse about my formative years, to be honest with you.
Wow.
I think you can look back, and you can, you know, if you're looking for the mistakes, you'll see them. You know, but of recent months, I've been quite reflective, and it's actually having artists sort of come into my vicinity that remind me of these things themselves, and sort of, you know, they decide where I'm at sometimes, because it's sort of like, oh, okay, so you're asking me for advice now, and I'm a fan of you. You know, you like my story and who I was around back then, and that's inspired your journey. Yeah. And I thought that we were just contemporaries, and now I'm like, oh no, we're, you know, I'm kind of in more of a mentor position now. But I kind of do look back sometimes at the headlines in my journals and go, oh yeah, I was, sitting across the table from Jay-Z, helping him with some of his clothing stuff at early days, and then you know, being on the road with Kanye in Melbourne and introducing him to some of the people in the fashion, in the kind of, you know, fashion world in Melbourne that sort of got an early mention in his fashion career, and then sort of sitting, you know, just sitting at a lot of different tables. You know, having Beyoncé kind of come up to me in a club when we're all sitting around, and, you know, asking me if, you know, why my voice is like, she likes the tone of my voice, and, you know, real conversation about music with people that are unacceptable. And to be honest with you, I didn't realise what was going on. You know, I left Australia without knowing why. And I ended up in New York, not knowing what I was trying to do. I just made songs. That's what I did. I just sang. I made songs. I didn't have goals, dreams, ambitions. I didn't have any of that. So when I ended up in studios or offices or doing this and that, I was like, oh yeah, cool. This will facilitate the next thing I'm doing. And that's about it. You know, that's about it. So, you know, so I never really did a solid stock take, to be honest with you, and maybe it kind of kept the engine running a bit, because I wasn't ambitiously seeking stuff. But, you know, I think that with great sort of, with success comes, you know, when you get up the top of that mountain, it's really, really hard to, it can be really hard to balance. You know, really hard to balance. The wind's stronger. You know, and you're tired. You're really tired from climbing. And so then you can see the inside of a jail cell. You can see, you know, you can OD on drugs. You can do all those things, you know. And so experiencing some of that stuff, it can just kind of have this strange effect, because it's like, well, you know, some people may see, you know, a platinum record and collaborations with Adele and Mark Ronson, and being in the winner's circle, so to speak, you know, but they didn't see me a year and a half later living out of the boot of my car on Sunset Boulevard. They didn't see that. You know? So it's a really interesting progression. But for the last 10 years, it's sort of been pretty helpful not to think of any of this, the wins or losses, really, because I've completely reshaped what I want to do. You know, and I do have goals and ambitions now. You know, I have a son, and I have, you know, people that I really love and care about, who I want to be close to all the time. You know, I value things. I have I have a lifestyle that allows me to create and live in a really healthy way. And so I can now reflect on the good stuff and go, oh, well, why don't we do that again? Do something similar again, but do it in a way where it's sustainable, you know. And then you know, the other thing I would suggest to any young artists is, it's just not fun anywhere on your own. So if you want to be successful, pick your best mates and bring them with you. You know, there's really no point in getting up to the top of that hill I was talking about, and looking around and seeing that there's only enough room for one person on the summit. You know? And I wasn't on the summit, but I was pretty close to it. And then, you know, I think you know, in recent years, been a beautiful journey to kind of like really recalibrate, reconnect with people I truly love, truly care about, and have them a part of my boy's life, and have them a part of my future journey. So but to go back to what you were saying, I'm not so reflective and impressed sort of way about what I've been doing over the last 20 years. But as more people were dying over the last 5 years, I was starting to be like, damn, they could have, oh man,
Yeah.
what? Like,
yeah,
so
absolutely.
it does get more reflective, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I hope that wasn't too intrusive of me to talk about that, but it's I'm grateful that you've shone such a positive well, such an honest light on it, because again, not you're a very private person, and for people that know you or that have known you for many years, you've never been majorly big on the social media stuff. You know, you're just one of those artists that humbly toil away at his craft, and obviously when we have chances to talk like this, to you know, whether you touch really quickly on something that you know experienced, or you've really gone into depth about moments where I would see you. And of course, again, like I said, we kind of grew, you know, together before you kind of, you know, left our little pocket of people here. We were all grasping at the straws in a way, because it was such a new genre to kind of deal with here in Australia at the time, in terms of like that sort of just for use of this interview, urban. I'm not a fan of the term, but that was what we were categorized as, the urban music industry. You know, I think that the humility that you've had all these years has definitely been the buffer and the savior for you, because again, you're not a rah-rah artist. And when I say rah-rah, you're not a Kanye, you're not those guys who are sort of screaming from the mountaintop, look at me, I'm this incredibly blessed, you know, musical genius. You've never been like that. I think that's part of the appeal. And if you really love your music and you listen to your music, you want to know more about you. Henceforth, this interview. So we're here now, 20 odd years later. You're in an incredible position. There's a lot of growth. There's a lot of evolution. Musically, how would you say you're moving forward? Are you creating your own stuff apart from working in the mentorship? I mean, the mentorship area, or are you putting your own music stuff on the back burner for a bit and doing this helping of others first?
I'm putting my stuff on the back burner for the time being. Being an artist now has very little to do with art. And I find that,
unfortunately,
I find that hard to grasp, and not just because it's just it's a job that has changed.
Yeah.
And I do that job in a very specific way.
Yeah.
And so I don't do that job at the moment. And so what I'm focused on now is really songwriting for other artists.
Nice.
You know, so that's the sort of place where I enter someone's career. You know, write a song together.
Yeah.
And we'll see what's going on in that way.
Yeah. And
through that, you know, a lot can unfold.
Absolutely.
You know, so, you know, I think that, you know, I was talking to someone the other day. I think I was talking to Hancock.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about how music is a spiritual thing.
Sure is.
You know, we've only made money from music maybe in the last 100 years in the way we do. But prior to that, you know, you'd sort of sing in a group choral. You know, you'd sing in a pub, you'd sing in a church. You know, you'd make music in a corroboree or in a group of people in a tribal environment. You would do it together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it would be more of a cipher. So you take turns. You know, and then it was a group think. So, I, in a way, almost don't think that I don't see artists as individuals really anymore.
Right.
I sort of see us all as just in a big cipher now.
Yeah.
So you just pass the mic, pass the baton. Okay, who's got the mic now? Okay, cool. it's your turn. Okay, it's your turn. Let's do this mixtape. Let's do that. I'll help you write this. You help, you know, rather than this idea of like, I want to be like Michael Jackson.
Yeah, those days are gone.
You know, because it does also, you know, cross into, and I won't go there today, but it crosses into, you know, the worship of a superstar.
Yeah.
Is you know, I mean, it's fascistic, isn't it? It's the same thing as worshipping a dictator.
Absolutely.
You know, what they say goes culturally, and I think that, you know, when we have so many different voices, and we're trying to express a general idea, maybe out of a couple of different ways of expressing it, then you sort of have more of a varied pool to gather from. So, you know, the artists I have around me now, you know, we're all speaking the same language.
Yeah.
In different ways. We all have the same message, I should say. Yeah. You know, but putting it forward in different ways. So when I go into the studio with someone and we're writing a song, it's, you know, does it matter? Maybe they're saying it better than I would.
Yeah.
Maybe the message is going through better there. So yeah, I'm focused mostly on songwriting, but then there's production, which I'm very passionate about.
That's what's up.
As well, and just artist development, you know, just bringing artists up and seeing what it is that they need help with, you know.
Oh, I think you'd be brilliant at that. I really do. I think that's your fit right now. And especially obviously with the songwriting too, because it's such a cathartic experience to write, and it's such an emotive thing. I can imagine writing songs. I mean, I write articles and books and things like that, and that's it's such a vulnerable thing too to write as well. So there's a lot of feelings and just everything into it. So it's the place you're at in your life right now. I think you're deeply feeling, and it's nice to nice to see that.
Thank you.
It's awesome. Can I ask you, like, you've lived in the UK for a number of years now. Why the UK? Why did you never come back to Australia? Obviously, I should answer this for myself, knowing that the artistry and the music stuff, it's a different machine in the UK, but it's got to be more than just your career. What is it about the UK that keeps you there?
Well, the thing that keeps me here is my son, Zion. You know, I had a dream in 2014. And I woke up and I wrote it down, and the dream was that two people came up to me and said that if I go to the promised land, it was about the promised land. And then I ended up here, and then I had a son, and I called him Zion.
There you go.
So he's my promised land.
Yeah.
And he's also his own promised land.
Yeah.
Okay? And so the thing that I've learned lately is it doesn't really matter where I am anymore, because, you know, sometimes I'll sit on this hardwood floor and I'll just close my eyes and I'll just kind of not really know where I am. And that peace that I'm trying to find, I think I'm trying to get to a place where I can cultivate it anywhere I am. But I think that the reason that I'm in London, you know, there's more to be revealed. Yeah. You know, there's more to come. But my primary purpose in my life right now is to be close to my boy, be close to my son, and providing the life that he deserves. Yeah. But I think that musically, you know, London is a really, really great place. Yeah. You know, many careers were forged here and then went other places. There's also sort of, you know, really great. It's just things happen really quickly here, and if you're not here to see it, then you can miss the progenitive thing. So it's like, you know, you know, it's really helpful to sort of, you know, see drill evolve from the start of its inception. You know, it's really helpful to kind of, I was here at the start of grime, I was here at the start of drill. You know, so like it feels significant to be a part of, you know, Wale's journey, and it feels significant to be a part of Digga D's journey. So it's sort of for me, I always feel like that's inspiring, you know, because I'm from the 90s.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, so you know, I'm from a time when it was cool to be different. And it was cool to literally feel like you were inventing or discovering a counterculture for the very first time. And you and 2-3 friends, no one had mobile phones or the internet, and you had a magazine maybe, or a zine or something, or a flyer of a band, and you didn't know what was in fashion. You had no idea. It's just you and your friends thought that these clothes were kind of cool, vaguely based on a few things, you know, and so I love counterculture, you know, I love it, but it sort of doesn't exist in the same way.
No, it doesn't.
You know, by the time I know about it somewhere, it's everyone knows about it. So it's really nice to be kind of, I think in London, you're kind of close to the vein of that.
Yeah.
You know, you're close to the vein of that, and you know, you might be in a basement party and no one's got their phone out, no one's recording anything.
Yeah.
You have to experience it, you know, firsthand, and that just feeds into the music, and it feeds into sort of, you know, you'll bump into someone who's doing an amazing, who's about to do something amazing.
Yeah.
And you can be of service as a creative person in a really hands-on way. Right? So I think that, you know, that's why I'm here. There's a few reasons, but I think it's like being close to that golden vein. Yeah. You know, being close to that golden vein, and also I feel quite safe here with what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
Because 40% of the world's money flows through the center of London.
Right.
So I feel like being in an economic center right now is kind of a safe harbor. I just realized I'm saying that to someone who's in Australia. You guys everyone's safe.
But that's your home though. So like, this is where I'm living, but you know, that's your home. That's your core. That's your center right now. But do you ever miss Australia? Do you ever? I mean, obviously now you're a dad, so eventually at some stage when you want to travel with your son, what do you want to have him experience about Australia if ever you guys come back here?
I want him to meet all my people, you know, because it's Melbourne is such a truly contemporary place on earth.
Yeah.
And you can't just be a tourist and know what I mean. No. It's sort of, you know what I mean. It's like when you go to Melbourne, there's a very specific thing going on.
Yes.
To do with, I think, the decategorization of human beings. Yeah. I think that's what's really beautiful about Melbourne.
Yeah.
So, you know, when he comes back, for instance, I want him to experience Ethiopian food for the first time. You know what I mean? You know, and he can maybe introduce his friends to his grandma's recipe of like amazing Nigerian jollof rice. Beautiful. You know, it's that kind of intersection of, okay, where are we gonna? Yeah. Where are you in the center of all this? Who are you? You know, when you're in Melbourne, I feel like sometimes you can get to that eventually, maybe a little quicker. So there's a lot of reasons, but it's just it's also the weather. I mean, it's dreadful over here.
It's not it's not a picnic.
we all need a bit more sun, I think. Yeah.
I feel you. Well, listen, whenever you do make the trip back, you've got a lot of people that want to catch up with you, want to see you. Obviously, I'm in Sydney, but you know, if I have to make the trip down to Melbourne with my tribe, and we know you're here, I'd love to catch up with you and meet your beautiful creation. And you know, you're doing amazing things, Daniel. You always have, regardless of what the start was, and you know, you've always got somebody here that you've inspired a lot of people, whether you know it or not, and whether that means anything to you, which I think it does, because obviously where you're at right now, you're doing amazing work with these artists who have no idea how blessed they are to be under your tutelage, if I can use that term. So I'm effortlessly in awe of you, and so proud that you're still standing firm in your resolve as a creative, as an artist, you're a father now, and you have come through so much challenge, but you've done it. You might laugh at this, but I think you've done it with incredible grace, because you've been you've always remained extremely true to yourself, and whether you knew it or not, I think you always had a goal, and that was just to stay true to yourself. And you've always done that. So thank you, man. Seriously, it's been such an honor to talk to you today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. And looking forward to whatever you're working on, and whoever you're working with. I'm sure we're going to hear some incredible things from you and from them. And I'll just, for my own, you know, vintage heart, I'll continue to play your original stuff, because it sparks incredible inspiration in me. So thank you for creating what you did way back then, because it's definitely on my soundtrack every day.
Thank you so much. Maybe you can send me that original album. All right. I mean, now, because I don't think I have a copy of it, and it never got released officially. That's
a trip. I think I've got it, because obviously I think I'm one of the only people and the only DJs in Sydney who still DJs with CD. Yes, I say that, and don't judge me.
Love it.
And it'll be worth millions one day, I'm hoping. So that's why I'm holding on to it. I'm a fossil. So yeah, I'll have a look, because I do remember there was a couple of demo CDs that I got given from some incredible artists. But I got that copy at your first listening party here in Sydney all those years ago, and I think I wrapped it in gold somewhere. So I will go and see if I can find it, and if I do, I will definitely send you a copy.
Yeah, great.
I will. Thank you for your time.
Thanks so much for having me. It's really lovely to catch up with you as a friend too, and you've been around, you know, since day zero, and I think we you know, there's a lot of artists who are very fond of you. So thank you for what you've been doing. It's really beautiful.
Thank you. That means a lot to me, Danny. You stay safe. Take care of that beautiful boy of yours, and we'll be in touch and stay connected as always. So thank
Amazing.
You. Take care, my
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
Merriweather, very clever. Talking about the city, dog. Look. I was in New York City, riding an A train, just holding my head, trying to maintain. Some old man came and he asked for some change. I just shook my head and laughed at the man. He said, young blood, you could crash in the rain and still wouldn't experience half of the pain that I've been through. You ain't been me, but I've been you. It's violent too. I was in awe. You be ducking dudes with bullets. I was ducking motherfuckers with bombs. Should I probably know your moms? Gave him $1 and said, peace, God. He looked at me and just kept going.
Give me a chance to explain myself, but just don't blame yourself for what I do. Yeah. Don't need your verbals to ease my pain. These herbals when spilled will stain from listening to you. Making your own exceptions, trapped in backwards directions. In the end, you surely knew. Yeah. Can't see the buildings for the city. Gray and never getting pretty. By the second getting tall instead of short. The wall is getting higher, turning lies into a sport. Corporate buyer will fall. Corporate buyer will fall. Yeah. She tries every time to make good sense to you. Yeah. You know the city will talk shit if she can't make love with you. You know that I could be the one that sells it all. But you know these buildings are taller than you can ever go. What the fuck you trying to say? The city rules away. The city rules away. Rules away. Rules away. We live into a pit. You dug with dishonest perspire. Did you quit or get fired? Did you run and get tired? Subject to get hired. What the fuck you trying to say? Every time I know that there is never delay. She tries every time to make good sense to you. Yeah. You know the city will talk shit if she can't make love with you. You know that I could be the one that sells it all. But you know these buildings are taller than you can ever go. What the fuck you trying to say? The city rules away. The city rules away. Rules away. Rules away. We live, yeah.
Rules away, we buy. Rules away, we sell. Rules away, we die.
In the city, you got the land, the man, the van, the can, the gun, the girl, the guy, damn, the trial, the jury, the rage, the fury. I need bail money, mom, please hurry. The style, the rhyme, the beat, the mic. It sounds something like X shit, but not quite. The city, the lights, the witty, the dumb. The chicks taking tips with her titties, the bum, the real, the fake, the squill, the snake. The niggas like me that have killed the Jake. The ghetto, the hood's the best, man. Got us in the jam, it's all part of the plan.
She tries every time to make good sense to you. Yeah, you know the city will talk shit if she can't make love with you. You know that I could be the one that sells it all. But you know these buildings are taller than you can ever go.